It can be incredibly challenging to afford long distance airfare, especially when the need is urgent. Distance and financial barriers should not be reasons to not be able to say goodbye to a loved one. Greetings to all watching and listening to this. Welcome to Chezuba Talks, a podcast dedicated to sharing compelling stories of hope, determination, and humanity. I'm Tej, and with me today is Nicolle, the founder and board chair of Families in Flight, a 501c3 nonprofit based in Portland, Oregon. Nicolle has founded a nonprofit to alleviate the pain of separation compounded by financial challenges in meeting a loved one, counting their last breaths. Welcome to the show, Nicolle.
Hey, Paige. Thank you so much for having me.
Let me commend you on that wonderful thought that made you start this nonprofit. Is there any incident that triggered this response?
Well, for me personally, it all started with the loss of my great aunt in 2016. We lived miles away from each other. I was in Florida. She lived in New York. And when I had gotten the call that she had fell ill, I was bartending. I was doing pretty well, but I still couldn't afford that expense of the last minute airfare. And unfortunately, it was what got in the way of me never seeing my aunt again, who really was like a grandmother to me. She was so special to me. And that turned into this extra layer of grief that I carried with me for a very long time. You know, the grief of missing the final goodbye. So I decided to channel that into something that could help other people and make sure that they didn't experience the same thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sorry about your loss, but something good came out of it.
It did. It was a really great way of me repurposing all of that pain that I went through and really turning it into good.
Yeah. So, Nicolle, could you just explain the process from application to actually flying out to meet the person? I mean, I'm sure this is always an emergency. So, how soon and how quickly do you have to respond?
So I have the application is an ongoing 24 hours, so I can get it as soon as it comes in. It's a pretty direct application. It's purposed that way because when people are going through these emergent situations, I want them to have something that's very easily navigatable, where they can find their way fast and not have to do too much. So they fill out a basic application with their name, a little bit of their situation, some contact details, and within a few hours, I would say, depending on what time it's coming in, we reach out, get a little more information about where they're going. We do verify a few details. If they are going to see a loved one in hospice or if there was an emergency and someone's at the hospital. So that could take a few hours too, just depending on what access we have to that information. And then from there, we book the flight and we get them there as soon as we can.
Yeah, that's great. But booking a ticket is it takes some time to find out which is the best airline, which is the shortest route, which is probably the most economical, something like that. So all this requires some homework, some groundwork to be done. Do you have somebody to do it for you, or you have a team, or do you have some kind of a tie-up with the airlines where they provide you with details quickly? How does it work?
So we don't have any partnerships with any airlines yet, but I know that that is on the horizon. Currently,
Lovely.
it's just me looking for the best flights. I'm a part of everything as far as Expedia. We just got a Kayak for Business account, Google Flights. I really search everything. I try to do it, rather quickly, as fast as I can. Also, flight prices are consistently changing,
Yeah, true.
especially those last minute flights. So
Hmm.
it's almost as if the longer you wait or the more you leave a page and come back, those prices just keep going up.
Yeah,
So once I
dynamic, yes.
find, yeah, and once I find something that is reasonable for us and also reasonable for those traveling, we don't want to set them up with anything that has three layovers and it's a red eye and,
Correct. Yes, yes.
puts them in an even more stressful traveling situation. We try to make it as smooth as possible for them too. So whatever works for us and also works for them and their schedule is important. If they're traveling with children, we take all of those things into account. I would say I've gotten pretty good at it. So it doesn't take me that long to find the right flight.
Wonderful. That's amazing. So, how many people travel at one time? I mean, is it a couple? Is it one person? Do entire families also approach you saying that all of us need to be there for the person?
Absolutely. So we've done a family, the most amount I think was a family of three, two parents and a child. We get some single requests. We get some husband wife requests for a parent and a child. So it just is dependent on their situation, um, their financial situation, the price of the tickets. Everything really is factored in. Um, so yeah, just it really depends on who's going. We've had like 8 members of the same family, but in different states, need to go to the same state. Um, so yeah, it's just dependent on everybody in their situation.
And do you fund the entire ticket, or do you expect some kind of some amount to be pitched in by the families themselves?
So we do the entire ticket. There are instances where we offer a one-way ticket to get them there. This is really if they don't quite meet the criteria for having a full flight paid for.
Okay.
It's tricky because these last minute flights are so expensive. If you have a family of four, you could look at a $4,000
Yeah,
bill
exactly.
when you're
Yes.
booking. So even if you're doing pretty well off, I mean, that's a really big expense. There are a lot of great programs, or sorry, Teach, I'm going to restart that.
Okay.
There are some programs offered by airlines now where they've partnered with people like Afterpay and Uplift, where they get on a little payment plan. They can pay these flights over the course of however many months with interest included.
Right. Right.
So if a family isn't fully eligible for the whole flight to be covered, I do suggest that they do that for one way, especially if after looking at their financials, we know that they're capable of
Correct.
doing so.
Yes, yes. So verification does take some time, getting to know whether the papers are in order, whether it is a genuine request. I'm sure it. Most of the times, it is a genuine request, right? I don't think you would have anybody claiming something like that. Do you have?
I would I would love to believe that every request is genuine. I think that there is an application process. So once you apply with that very direct form, you are transferred over to another page where you upload documents. So your license, your most recent pay stub, and then the information about the facility you're going to visit and the person that you're going to visit. And that's just so,
Right.
like I said earlier, we can verify. I would say probably about 30% of applicants fade off in this area because they don't either feel comfortable uploading their documents or for whatever reason, maybe they exaggerated a little bit on their form about their income. which is all relative. So even if someone did exaggerate a little, after looking at their pay stub and their life and their family and how many people are in their household, there are a lot of things taken into account. Um, but I would say that it is very important that we verify, since we are using, donations. Um, there have been there was a grant that was awarded to us. It's very important to us that we do what we say we're going to do, and that is 100% to verify and make sure that they are legitimate reasons for this last minute travel. And yes, for the most part, once we get to that point, they are.
That's good to know. Let's talk about the funding aspect. How is the ticket funded? I mean, every time, obviously, because these are last minute flights, I'm sure they're expensive. And do you request for donations from the community?
We do. So we have a lot of individual donors. We had a few fundraisers when we first started, just to kind of gain donors, gain recognition. I started in the very beginning. So we were established at the end of 2021. The program launched in May of 2022. So I was able to get some good footing there as far as funding goes. Like any nonprofit, funding is a wheel that keeps turning. You need to keep raising money. So as flights are so expensive, we work with a few donors that fund flights in totality. So I have a list of people, and if I need a flight to send out, I can call somebody, see if it's a match, see, if they resonate with the story, if they feel like it's within their budget, and then they'll book the flight. We also were awarded a Walmart community grant in 2022, which was very wonderful and helpful. So yeah, it's mainly individual donors and that grant, and every day we're fundraising.
Let's take a break to understand what Chezuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state of the art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chezuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chezuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chezuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chezuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest. Yeah, I'm sure that part is also very interesting when you talk about fundraising. There are people who would question you, and there would be people who would give so generously that you wonder where these people come from.
Oh, absolutely. I hear a lot too, because you're right. It is like two groups. One side is people should have a savings. People should have an emergency fund for things like this.
Yes, yes.
And then the other side is, I love what you're doing. This is amazing. You're really helping. I think it's so far out of reach for the first side to understand that there could be a group of people that can't afford, $600-700 plane ticket. But it is just the reality. The amount of requests we get, the flights that we've done is an absolute clear indicator of how necessary the service is and how families really do need it.
True, true. And you fund tickets within the United States, nothing out of the United States, if I'm not mistaken.
We haven't done outside of the United States yet. Um, we do just strictly in the United States, or if the flight is originating from the United States. We also focus on residents of the United States. So they do have to have a US valid ID upon applying.
Right. I'm sure because going out of the United States would require the visa issues, and you don't want to get into that.
Yeah, it's a lot more documentation that I don't know that I'm really that skilled on verifying just yet. I do hope that we get to a point of being completely global. I also felt like when starting, it was important for me really relying on US donors to be able to help people of the United States.
Wonderful. Yeah. And how many people have you funded so far? Have you kept count?
So far, we've booked 10 flights for 5 families.
Wonderful. That's a good number to start. And you're barely a year old, I believe. No, a year and a half.
Yeah, so we celebrated our our date of establishment. We've been a year, but our program launched in May. So about 8 months since the program's been up and running.
Yeah. So that's a good number. Yes, it is. And do you
Thank
get
you.
these lovely thank you notes and words of appreciation from the families that you've helped?
We
Are they in
do.
touch?
So they are. Also experiencing grief is so different for people. So it's really to each individual. I try not to do too much follow up directly after, just to give them space to
Right,
handle everything that
right.
just happened and in their situation. There's a lot of conversation in the beginning about booking flights and when they really need the help, about how grateful they are and how thankful that we have the service. I try to give a little bit of a buffer after I know they've completed their trip, but we are now really entering that phase of reaching out, hearing back from the families, and really how we changed their lives and made it possible for them to be with their family for a final goodbye, in times of grief, otherwise when they wouldn't have been able to. So it's extremely rewarding and it's very full circle in those moments.
Yes, rewarding, I'm sure it is very, very rewarding. Not everybody would think of such an aspect of wanting to go and meet a loved one and getting somebody to fund your ticket to just meet the person who was not going to be there for after that. I would say these people the families that you've helped, I'm sure they would also think about giving further, right? It's like they have been helped by someone
Right,
and they would take it forward and help in whatever way that they can. I think you just start off a chain reaction where the value of empathy is passed on to
right.
different people. Yeah, that's
Oh,
wonderful. You're doing a great
absolutely.
job.
Oh, thank you, Tage. Yeah, it's very much so paying it forward. When we get these testimonials and these stories after a completed trip, it really helps to get the funding to be able to offer the same service to another family in need. And the people that use our services understand that and they really are a part of the bigger picture, which is really special.
Yeah. On a slightly different note, tell me, do you feel that airlines or any kind of transport should have a certain quota where people should be allowed to book for emergencies like this? taking into account the cost factor, the time factor.
I mean, I definitely think they should. I think just like we're very, we take a lot into account of verification. I think airlines would have to do that tenfold. I mean, I don't even know how they would go about that process. And you look back at the bereavement discounts that were once offered, those are a thing of the past now. I think maybe Delta still offers one. Um, and it's an extremely low percentage of a ticket off. You need to provide documents. It has to be after someone's already passed away. So, these big million and billion dollar airlines really are of no help. And I think that all kind of changed when you had other smaller airlines coming in and offering these really low and discounted ticket prices. Things became a lot more competitive. And
Yes.
unfortunately, people dealing with emergencies and bereavement never really had any resources or support from the airlines.
Yeah, sure. That's great, Nicole. You are doing great work, and I don't want to wish this that you are able to help more families. I mean, because that's a very paradoxical thing to say, but
Yeah.
I do wish that you get a lot of support. I do wish that something great in terms of partnership comes along for you. And here's wishing you all the very best for the nonprofit.
Thank you, Paige. And thank you again for having me on the show.
It was wonderful talking to you.
You too.
That's it from me for this episode. This was Nicole from Families in Flight, a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and they help people travel to distances that people would not be able to meet their loved ones who are on the deathbed or not doing well, and they fund tickets for such people. Great work, Nicole, and see you all again in the next episode where we meet yet another amazing personality doing great work. Till then, goodbye.